It really does seem like the more the game moves forward, the more it is becoming essential for players to be able to do a bit of everything. After all, nowadays it's almost a necessity for even goalkeepers to be comfortable with the ball at their feet. However, there are certain players who have been versatile at a world-class level even prior to the most recent surge of tactical evolution, and today we look back at 7 of the best such examples since 2004. Now, as far as this list goes, there are 2 important factors to consider. Number 1, there has to be a clear distinction between the 2 positions a player will be entered for, so this automatically rules out people like Neymar and Eden Hazard who, whether they were out on the wing or playing through the middle, their game didn't really change all that much. And number 2, yes, the player has to have been world class or better in each of the 2 distinctive positions. So for example, this excludes someone like Dion Dublin, because despite having played both as centre back and centre forward, it's hard to argue that he was actually world class in either of those roles. So as amazingly impressive as it was that he was able to play in both positions at such a high level, old Dion's name is unfortunately taken out of this list and probably put up someone's stairs and into their bedroom. With these next few individuals though, different story. Here are 7 footballers who were world class in 2 different positions. Let's roll on. Number 7, Angel Di Maria, right wing and left central midfield. When I in one of my previous videos referred to Di Maria as a serial sideman, best believe I wasn't doing it just to complete the alliteration. Because you see, the general theme throughout El Fideo's career was that if a team had a particular void that needed to be filled among the attacking 6, he most of the time was the man to do it. E.g., Ronaldo wants to play on the left, so Di Maria went out on the right. Jose wants Ronaldo up front, so Di Maria fills in on the left. Gareth Bale arrives at Madrid, Di Maria moves to midfield. Argentina need to create some bookie shape to fit both Aguero and Messi in. Di Maria slots in among the 3. And while there have been numerous players who have made careers out of being utility man, the difference here is, no matter what the role demanded of him, Di Maria was not only able to keep up with his usually elite teammates, but often even outshine them. And the 2 positions that highlighted this the best was right wing and left central midfield. So as far as right wing, that's probably the position that's most synonymous with his career, having played there for the majority of his career, most successfully as a part of Mourinho's counter-attacking demons of the early 2010s. A period of time where he'd finished with double figures in assists in practically every season, with his pace, agility and usage of his skinny frame to his advantage being a nightmare for any defender that came across him. But then came the summer of 2013, and with it 2 major acquisitions for Real Madrid: right winger and world-renowned name Gareth Bale, and young and emerging attacking midfielder Francisco Alarcon, the arrivals of whom, in many people's eyes, spelled the end of Di Maria's career at Madrid. But nope. Because after being in and out of the team in the first couple of months, Di Maria eventually found his way back in by moving to LCM, whispering, "Not yet, kid," to Isco, and cementing his place in the first 11 once again. And here you got to see the true extent of his incredible passing ability, as well as just how intelligent, creative and forward thinking he really was. Attributes that are usually coached out of you when you're a wide player in a Mourinho side. Just ask Joe Cole. And not only did he outright top the assist charts this time that season, but he also stole the show in a Clasico and won the man of the match in a Champions League final, proving that no matter how many times you push him down, Angel Di Maria will always rise. And then Perez sold him because he was too ugly. Number 6, Paul Scholes. Number 6 and number 10. One of the greatest Premier League midfielders of all time in the advanced role, and one of the greatest midfielders of all time period in the sitting role. Such was the technical genius of Paul Scholes, and such was the tactical genius of this man. And this isn't spoken about enough. Because while Sir Alex Ferguson gets all the credit for his man management and psychology, the fact that he turned Paul Scholes, a player whose game was almost solely based on making forward runs and getting in the end of things, to possibly the best controlling midfielder English football has ever seen, I mean, that should tell you that old Fergie wasn't just all hairdryers in mind games. Man knew, ball fam. Having said that though, let that take nothing away from just how well Scholesy made that transition. I mean, to go from a player who reached double figures in goals goals in 8 out of his first 10 seasons as a first team starter, to not reaching double figures in any of his final 7 seasons, and still somehow be better in those final 7 seasons. Bro, that's how pivotal Scholes was in that holding role. And to be a part of Manchester United's 2 greatest teams in the modern era, having completely different roles in both, and still be just as effective as well as successful, no doubt Paul Scholes deserves to be on this list. And to be honest, maybe a little higher than this too. Number 5, Javier Mascherano. Number 5 and number 6. Sorry if I'm baffling you with this stuff, by the way. What can I say? I like numbers. So, speaking of numbers, despite this only being the 3rd entry on this list, we already have our 2nd Argentinian on this list, and technically, this isn't even the last Argentinian that will feature on this list. Damn, these men really teach their kids to do it all with their feet, don't they? And also with their hands. Right, so negative stuff out of the way first. The main reason I have Javier Mascherano, one of the most prominent examples of a player being great in 2 positions in the modern era, relatively low down, is the same reason I don't have Philipp Lahm anywhere on this list. And that basically just boils down to personal opinion. Cause in my personal opinion, I don't believe Lahm could have been a great CDM consistently for a considerable period of time outside a tiki-taka system, just like I don't think Mascherano could have been a great centre-back consistently for a considerable period of time outside a tiki-taka system. But you see, the difference between the two is, while Lahm can be excused because he didn't really play in midfield for too long, Javier Mascherano pretty much had prolonged success in both centre-back and CDM. And although he undoubtedly did his best individual work in the middle of the park, centre-back is where he had the most collective success. But again though, I do feel a lot of that had to do with the system he was playing in. E.g., whenever he did play there, he always had a partner who was tall, composed and elegant. You know, all the things he's not. On the other hand, none of this can be said about him as a CDM. That is where he was genuinely world class in his own right, being arguably the best player and certainly the most consistent player in a team that reached the World Cup final, while also anchoring a fairly underrated Liverpool team who pushed hard for the Premier League title in 08-09, alongside the likes of Xabi Alonso and Steven Gerrard. And speaking of Steven Gerrard, number 4, Steven Gerrard, CM and RM. So this one's a bit weird, because you see, as far as midfield... Oh, and by the way, take note, by RM I mean right mid, not right wing. Right wing is quote unquote wingers nowadays who play along the front line. Right mid is a traditional wide midfielder. These guys usually stayed out wide, did a lot more defensive work, and usually played in a 4-4-2. You know what? Search it up. And I mean search it up because this isn't the only entry on this list that you'll require this knowledge for. Wink wink. But anyways, here is why I said this is a bit weird. Because you see, despite starting his career out wide, I'm sure most, if not all of you, would associate the central midfield position the most with Stevie G. Yet, his best football may have actually come from the right. Yes, because as brief as it was, there was a period in the mid-2000s where, partially due to Stevie G's then perceived lack of positional discipline, Rafa Benitez began shifting him out while opting for the likes of Mohamed Sissoko and Didi Hamann to partner Xabi Alonso through the middle. Now, after seeing that and after seeing his multiple hand-picked wingers fail miserably with the mammoth task of replacing Becks, famed Dutchman and umbrella endorser moonlighting as England manager Steve McLaren also began playing Stevie G on the right. And whether it was under the original Mr. Factos or the president of the I Hate David Beckham club, Stevie more than thrived on that right hand side, statistically stacking up his 2nd greatest season ever for Liverpool and best year for the national team. The highlight of all this being him basically winning the FA Cup on his own. And as far as keys to his success out wide, he can kinda do everything. He was quicker than most people give him credit for, had a brilliant delivery, was fit as a fiddle, and out wide can actually get away with being out of position a little bit more. And while he has also played multiple other positions in his career and thrived in pretty much all of them, it's hard to argue that, as much as he didn't like playing out wide, the right mid isn't the position that truly got the best out of him. Though as I said, the stint was quite short-lived, as he was eventually moved back into the centre for both club and country. For club due to the signings of Dirk Kuyt and Fernando Torres, meaning it just made more sense now for him to operate through the middle, albeit a little further up than he was used to. And country cause, no matter how good he was, that soaked and moistened sunless summer of 07 saw the resurgence of someone who's simply a substantially superior right-sider. A bloke who goes by the name of number 3, David Beckham, RM and CM. Okay, so realistically, I can spend about 12 days talking about this. Maybe more actually, but I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. So in many ways, Beck's timeline is basically inverse Stevie G. He started off as a centre mid, but spent the most of his career on the right, and yeah, probably did his best work through the middle. Though in truth, that last bit is extremely debatable. He was just so perfect in every way. So if you were to assess Beck's profile in a football equivalent of LinkedIn and determine which role suits him the best, without a doubt it would be central midfield. He had great vision, incredible passing, the best cardio around at that time, was always a threat from long range, and his decision making was second to none. So as you can see, all of his positive traits very much point to him being a central midfielder. Apart from one that I conveniently left out here, and unfortunately for Bex, one that happens to be his greatest trait: crossing. You see, in the systems United used to play during his time, you could only have 2 central midfielders, and as amazing as Bex was in that position, fact is the team already had a couple of stalwarts there, one of whom can arguably do everything Bex could do. When it comes to out wide, however, never mind United, I genuinely don't think there was any player in the world that was capable of doing what Bex was doing at the time, because despite not being blessed with lightning pace and rarely ever dribbling past anyone, David Beckham was near unstoppable from the right hand side, because no matter what his body position was, where the defender was, how many defenders were surrounding him, he had that unique ability, courtesy of his magic wand of a right foot, to deliver a pinpoint cross, hitting the exact area he wanted practically every time. It's pretty straightforward really. David Beckham was just a unique weapon to have on the right hand side. But even then, mind you, he still had his fair share of games through the middle, most notably early on in his England and Real Madrid career. And how did he do? Well, for England under Glenn Hoddle, he was chosen ahead of elite ballers like Paul Gascoigne and Matt Letizia as one of the 2 advanced midfielders in a 3-5-2, when he wasn't playing wing back of course, and was actually so good that not only was he the only England player to have played every qualification game en route to the '98 World Cup, but even in the actual tournament where the manager did his best to try and keep him out for non-footballing reasons of course, Bex found his way back and basically ended up being the one securing a second round place for his country with a man of the match performance in the final group game against Colombia, and directly up against Carlos Valderrama no less. And if you're too young to know how to react to that, trust me, it's a big deal. Similarly, whenever he was deployed through the middle at Real Madrid, despite having more defensive responsibilities than he cared to have, he was still arguably Real's best player and ran quite a few games early on during his time in Spain. Not to mention also casually bossing the midfield in a Champions League final after having played majority of the season on the right. Light work, this football stuff. Was that brief enough? Number 2, Cristiano Ronaldo, right mid and left wing. Not left wing and centre forward like most people claim. Remember what I said about distinction? Because the truth is, whenever he played and still does play centre forward, he pretty much always favours that left hand channel. Hence, not enough distinction. What there was a clear distinction between though, was the left wing role that cemented him as an all-time great, and the not as prominent but still world-class right mid role he played in his first 4.5 years at Manchester United. Yes, 4.5, not 3. And this is something else that annoys me. So there's another of these stupid myths going around about Ronaldo's early United career, and it goes something like this. He played wide mid in his first 3 years feeding Van Nistelrooy, Ruud left in 06, Ronnie came back jacked, Sir Alex loved it, played him up front, and the rest is horse shit. This is what actually happened. Even after Rude left, United still played a 4-4-2 formation, but now with Louis Saha partnering Rooney up front. And as for CR7's game that season, well, he just got better. It usually happens with hard work. And following a very good 05-06, Ronnie took his game to another level in 06-07 and still played that right mid role for the majority of 07-08. Yes, 07-08. That 07-08. But as that season did progress though, his defensive responsibilities slowly began to diminish and he did begin to get moved around a lot more. But even then, to have played the majority of that legendary season on the right, arguably the greatest individual season in Premier League history lest we forget, as well as the insane season he had the year prior and still very good one he had in 05-06, and to be fair, even a few big games before that. Like go watch Manchester United vs Liverpool from 2004 for example. I'm pretty sure that's on YouTube. And those are the games, those are the years that still get him in most people's Premier League all-time 11 on the right even today. Now let's put that in context. This guy became arguably the greatest player in the best league in the world as a right mid, and then arguably the greatest player in history on the wide left. That, my friends, is what you call owning two positions. And as far as centre forward, yeah, he was aight. Does that goal thing really well, don't he? Good on him, man. Honourable mention, Dani Alves. Right back and fucking nonce. Real honourable mention, Lionel Messi. Right wing and false nine. The man who revolutionized the false nine, introduced it to a whole new generation, who just happens to be the GOAT right winger. So why is he merely an honourable mention? Well, again, distinction. Because you see, bar that first season under Pep where, fair enough, he did kind of have to stick to the right and in a proper system, Messi for the rest of his Barca career kind of did whatever the fuck he wanted to. And that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. Pep obviously very quickly realized that he has something very special here and was clearly more flexible with Leo than he was with others. I mean, bro just literally went up to him in 2010 like, yeah, so I want to go and play in the middle and that guy's nose is on the way. Can you sort me out? And whether it was from the right or as a false nine, Messi did have the freedom to roam around and pick up positions at his convenience. And while he was world class and more on each role, according to the criteria for this list, he unfortunately doesn't make the cut. Poor guy, I'm sure he's devastated. And number one, Paolo Maldini, left back and centre back. As amazing as Messi was in two positions, if you build a false nine system when making an all-time football 11 and put him through the middle and leave out Pele, you'll certainly raise at least a few eyebrows. As amazing as Ronaldo was in two positions, if you switch him from left to right in the all-time 11 and leave Messi out, you'll also raise a few eyebrows. And probably a few pitchforks. And also your house will burn down. But this is where this man is different. Paolo Maldini is legitimately the only player who you can slot in two different positions in an all-time 11 with barely anyone blinking an eyelid. Which actually makes it even more baffling that he actually started off neither as a left back or centre back. Born to another legendary versatile Italian defender, Maldini began as, well, basically as that, a versatile Italian defender, though he did lean more towards the right back position. However, as a result of the Milan sides during his breakthrough years already being nicely equipped with a right back in the presence of Mauro Tassotti, manager Arrigo Sacchi usually played Maldini on the left. And so began over a decade of him mainly operating at left back and possibly becoming the greatest left back of all time? Maybe? Certainly the best I've seen anyway. Winning countless league titles as well as 3 European Cups. But as the new millennium rolled around and he was approaching his mid-30s, Maldini began appearing centrally more and more often. And this wasn't a sudden change or anything, don't get me wrong. He was still very capable and did play many games as a fullback, especially when Nesta and Stam were the preferred central partnership. But as time went on, it was obvious that the centre is where Maldini's future lay. And my guy, this wasn't them ones where an old guy changes position and becomes a backup to the youngers. Fuck no. This man switched to centre back, won a further 2 European Cups starting at and captaining from centre back, and put his name right in the mix as one of the greatest centre backs of all time too. I mean, if nothing else, that is fucking rare. and to arguably become the greatest ever in 2 different positions and to carry that on into your 40s, I mean, that's just a testament on the guy's professionalism on top of all the other amazing qualities. And for that, for me, Paolo Maldini is undoubtedly the greatest example of a player who excelled in 2 different positions. Goated. And that is that. Agree or disagree? Beats indifferent. Are there any entries on this list you don't agree with? Were there any examples of players who were world class in 2 different positions that I left out? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.